We're back. Dan and Abe and Dan, Dave and Nab, or something like that. What is up? The return of Abe Fogle. Abe, how are you, man? How you doing?
All right, man. How you doing? It's good to see you again.
Good to see you again, too. Excited to talk to you again. So much to talk about from our last show that we did. I don't know. It was only like a month ago. It was not that long ago, but
a little less than a month ago. Yeah.
It was clear that we had, so much to talk about that I wanted to have you on. In fact, I think it was the Wednesday before the big floods here where we live, which is a whole other story. So the floods were the 26th, so I think it was like the 24th that week, which would have been 3 weeks ago, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. It was about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, lots happened since then. But, one of the things you and I talked about that I want to expand on, a few things, but the first thing is we talked about mostly but a little bit of mine, but our upbringing in our families and how important it is to have a support system. And you can't change your family, especially when you're a kid, but as you grow friends and you grow your social circles, and as you grow up, you do have the ability to choose who you surround yourself with, and you should always surround yourself with people who support you 100%. Otherwise, it's sabotage, self-sabotage. Right. And you and I were talking just a little bit ago about the kind of home we grew up in with the love, not the money, but the love.
That's right.
Learning what that was about, but also the music. And we shared a bit of that, and you started to tell a funny story about growing up and what it was like, where your jazz was all day, all night. Your dad was jazz all day, all night. Your mom was Johnny Hathaway, Aretha Franklin, but there was a caveat that came with that. Why don't you expand on what that experience was like a little bit?
Well, first, like I said, thank you again for having me. It's a pleasure to be here again. It really is.
Thank you.
As far as my mom and dad were concerned, every time I looked at them, I saw love was in the air. That's just the way that my family was. We weren't rich, but we didn't know that we were poor.
Yeah, I get that.
One of those things where you always manage to get what you asked for Christmas, and there was never a missed meal at a table.
Yeah.
It was always, there was always love in the house, and love was everywhere, in our family. And what would happen is, because it was either on my dad's radio in the car, or on the radio in the house, or his transistor radio, he was jazz all day, 24/7, all day, all night, jazz. And we had one great jazz station. As a kid, I was exposed to this station called WRVR 106.7 in New York. And it was jazz all day, every day. They would have different types of shows where it would be traditional jazz. This Wednesday, it would be, like the Noel Pointers and those cats on a Friday night. Then there would be a request line and all that. Long story less long, my dad was jazz all day, every day. My mother was Aretha Franklin, Donny Hathaway, Roberta Flack, and so many others, and her gospel too.
Yeah.
But the key with my mom is that on Saturday mornings, if you heard Aretha Franklin come on the record player, you needed to get up and get out of the house. Because if you didn't get up and get out of the house in time, you were stuck in the house cleaning with my mother. So you were either washing walls, or washing windows, or sweeping under beds, picking up dirty laundry, whatever the case may be. But that was the cue. It was almost like it was a fire drill kind of thing. You hear like daydreaming and I'm thinking of you, and you're like, oh, gotta go. No, gotta go, gotta get out.
And you have a lot of siblings. So like, were you all stuck in the doorway trying to push through at the same time? Or like, what was it like? And what was your ratio of cleaning to out riding your bike when that would happen?
My ratio to, I'll put it to you like this. My ratio to out riding my bike to cleaning, the riding bike thing was a lot higher on the ratio scale. Because, they said that my sister, my sister would tell me, because you're the baby boy, you get spoiled. You got spoiled all the time. I was like, how do you get spoiled in a family that isn't like the richest family, but to a certain extent, it was true because, like I said, we never lacked for anything.
Right.
Didn't it wasn't like, Dad, for my sixth birthday, can I have a toy Rolls Royce? It wasn't like we were asking for exorbitant things,
Yeah.
kids. We understood and worked within our means and worked within the means of our parents as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we knew that you wouldn't ask for a whole lot. But for me, as far as like getting out, I always managed to be able to be one of the first couple people to get out the house, and if I wasn't one of the first couple people to get out the house, one of my other brothers would want to like snatch me and throw me back in the house so that they can have the position to get out. And then I'm stuck in the house, and all of a sudden you hear click, click, here's a sponge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Instead of here's your bicycle.
Right.
Take your bicycle down the stairs or take your bicycle down in the elevator. We lived on the first floor when I was a kid. So instead of take your bike downstairs and go ride, it was take this sponge and go wipe the walls down. So
Yeah.
that's how that went.
Funny stuff. One thing we did not touch on last time we spoke was let's geek out on gear a little bit. I think
Yeah.
most drummers, I used to think all till someone, I'll tell you who in a moment, bursted my bubble. I thought, well, all drummers are gearheads to some degree, right? And I'll never forget how this blew my mind before the interview started with Bill Bruford. And I
Mhm.
started telling him, hey, we'll talk about this. You can promote that and we'll geek out on gear. He said, yeah, I'm not really into gear. I'm like, what? You've had a different drum kit like every freaking record, every turn. He says, yeah, but I don't really get into the nuances. I said, okay, we'll skip that. Could you believe that? It just
That's
blew my
that's
mind.
that's intense.
It
That is
is.
intense. I would have expected Bill Bruford to be like an aficionado.
Yeah, especially
Of
with the whole hybrid stuff, you got
Yes,
the Octobans acoustic, the old Simmons, and like,
that's
what?
right.
You're not into gear?
Right, right. The wide open snare drum that everybody tried to emulate.
Yeah,
The snare with no muffling on it or anything like that.
yeah,
That everyone tried to emulate, that snare that sounded like a timbali with
yeah,
snares on it and stuff. I mean, I would, if I were in a room with him, I would want to geek out with him and find out,
totally.
how he came about finding that sound and living with that sound for his snare drum.
I heard him say that one of the ways he refined that when he started playing with Yes is because Chris Squire's bass had such high frequencies, the way the EQ was on his Rickenbacker, that Bill said the only way he could cut through that was to really crank it down and have that high pitch that would pierce through that.
Yeah, wow,
And
that's
it
something
makes
else.
sense sonically if you think about how Chris's, clicky and high frequency EQ on his bass sounded with the round wound strings and everything.
Definitely,
Yeah,
definitely. I could definitely see that. That makes a lot of sense.
yeah,
Because I mean, there are times where you have um guys that have like a really, really like thick, full, round, earthy bass tone.
yeah,
And it has a tendency to take up all those frequencies that, like, let's say, a Black Beauty snare.
yeah.
'Cause you know how sometimes cats like that really low thud,
That fatness.
that fatness of a snare drum, and sometimes that doesn't cut through when the bass player's taking up all those other frequencies. So
Right.
sometimes you have to either retune the drum to find the frequency that fits really well with that,
Yeah.
or get another drum and work with that drum to
Yeah.
find that it cuts through just right.
Yeah. It's that complementary register, that works.
That's right.
Um, interesting. So tell us a bit about your setup, the stuff you
Sure.
use. I'm sure you use different setups depending on the gig, but in general,
Absolutely.
what's some of the gear that you use to get the sounds you get?
Absolutely. I mean, I do use different setups for different gigs. I don't bring the fusion drum set to an easy listening gig, if you will.
Right.
You know, um, but yeah, for me, well, I'll start by thanking my endorsement companies
Yeah.
because they have all over the course of 35 to 37 years, they have all spoiled me rotten. I mean, spoiled me rotten to the point where I'm overseas asking, how can I get a piece of equipment to me because something failed? And
Yeah.
then it shows up the next day with the European rep at soundcheck kind
Yeah.
of thing.
That's awesome. That's
It's that
support.
intense. So it's for me, a big, huge shout outs to Vic Firth Sticks, Yamaha Drums and Hardware, Sabian Cymbals, Evans Drumheads,
Mhm.
Porter and Davies Amplification Accessories,
Right.
and True Tuna Accessories. True
Nice.
Tuna is a cat named Jason Truder. He's a real good
Yeah.
cat with with toys, and he has this gadget called the True Tuner, and
Yep.
basically where cats were struggling like on gigs, like say for example, you're on a gig and your snare drum head breaks and you don't necessarily, let's say for the sake of argument, you do have a backup, but your backup doesn't sound the same as your original and you want your original back. So let's
Right.
say you have a drum tech that's working on it for you, but with one drum key having to go around 8 lugs to loosen 8 lugs first, take the old head off, put the new head back on, and then tighten 8 lugs to the
Yeah.
tuning that you like, and then swap out the snares in between tunes. Jason developed a device that, and this applies to all sizes of drums, all
Yeah.
sizes from the 8-inch to the 16-inch floor tom, if you will. It's a device that fits on top of all of the lugs on the drum, and it has a crank in the middle, and it tunes all of them at the same time.
Yeah. It's a
So that,
fascinating. I've seen
yeah,
that because we interviewed him at either the 2019 or 2020 NAMM show, and he demonstrated. It's
uh-huh.
fascinating idea. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an amazing gadget, and it helps because it saves a great deal of time when you talk about changeover time.
Yeah, and on live gig, it's so structured that it's gotta happen while the man or woman's introducing the next song or something. You've got
That's right. That's
yeah,
right.
you
It's
can't
gotta
pull
be that
everything out.
fast, and
Yeah,
sometimes even faster. Even if you have a 16 bar, if you have a 16
right.
bar section where you laying out,
Yeah,
sometimes you gotta snatch that old snare drum off it and put your snare drum back on, put it right back where it needs to be, make sure it's
yeah,
adjusted properly, tightened up in the stand, and then boom, be ready for that 17th bar.
yeah.
But yeah, those are those are my companies, and like I
That's
said,
cool.
they spoil me rotten. So as far as I'll say specifically as far as gigs on a Rob Thomas caliber,
Yeah, yeah,
I usually use my 6-piece kit where I'll
mhm,
have my kick, my snare, 2 racks, and 2 floors, and boatload of cymbals. I love my Sabian cymbals. They sing for me. They really do.
that's cool.
People have
What
asked me.
series do you use, Abe?
I go through a series, pun intended. I go through a number of series when I play. I use the double AX. I use
Yeah.
the double HX. I also use they've got like ozones.
Yeah, I have an Ozone from, I think, the first year they put them out, like 2002 or 3,
Yeah, oh,
way
that's
back,
good.
and it's still amazing. It has an
Uh-huh.
amazing wash to it. It's incredible.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, and uh, the the Chinas. I actually have from a very very dear friend of mine who's no longer with us, who used to be a rep at Sabian. I met him because I got him tickets to the show in Boston, and to thank me, he came with a China with rivets,
Oh, wow.
and
Those are cool.
I'd never had one of those before. And I tell you, it has the most delightful tone to it, and the resonance of
Yeah.
it. Like if you just tap it, it sings for a very long time.
Yeah. And like you get that shimmer from the
Yes,
ribbon. Yeah.
yes. And if you crash on it, it's very pronounced for a very long time. But as it dies down, it's still singing to you.
Yeah.
So
That's
that's
cool.
one of the things that I really, really like about that cymbal. And I don't know why he chose that one to bring to me, but that one is like it's like in my wheelhouse now.
That's cool.
I think about the gigs that I could use a cymbal like that on whenever I go
Yeah.
to play gigs.
Yeah.
So for Rob's gigs and that caliber, that level, I go with the 6 piece, and I go with my Sabians, and I have my Evans heads on the drums. I usually use G2s on the
Mhm.
drums, and then if I'm doing like a cocktail gig or something like that, I usually bring out my 4 piece. I'll do kick, snare, rack, and a floor tom, and either 2 crashes and a ride, or a crash and a ride.
Yeah.
And just and keep it simple.
Right.
One of the things that I enjoy doing is I enjoy minimalizing my kit so that I can find more sounds within the fewer pieces. You
Yeah.
know, Sometimes when folks say, like, less is more, you know, um, I try to take that to heart, and I try to use that, in the concept of whatever the gig is calling for at the time. You know.
I love that because I do sit in. I sit in once in a while, and we were me and these two other young guys. When I say other young guys, I don't mean as in me too. I mean these two other guys that are young. And they
It's all right. You're in there too. Don't worry about
you're saying that because we're the same age. Um,
it.
we played when I was playing a 4-piece kit, and one of the things we played was YYZ by
Ah,
Rush.
nice.
And to play it on a 4-piece kit, your brain, you're still doing the hits. It's like playing something you're used to playing on an 88 key piano and using
Right.
all the octaves, but now you're playing it on a small Casio with
That's
two
right.
octaves, but you're still playing all the notes.
Uh-huh.
It's just economizing where are they being placed because you've only got those three plus the bass drum to work with. It's a fun challenge to do stuff like that. A lot of times I'll sit at my 4-piece jazz kit and put on some super progressive rock that I would play my big obnoxious kit on because it
Yes.
has all the notes from the 8-inch to the 29-inch timpani drum. I got a few of
Yeah.
those. It's fun to do. It makes you think differently, and I'm visual, so I when I look at my kit, no matter which one I'm playing, I hear in my head, I know what's coming, and I see it visually in patterns. So if I were to play YYZ on the 4-piece kit, I'm processing where am I going to put all those notes that I don't have the same drums for, but still give the integrity to the part in the song.
That's right.
It's a fun challenge.
It's an excellent challenge. And I think that's something else that came as a result of my teachers getting me to explore more options. So when I questioned them about exploring more options, because here I am, a young buck, and I'm thinking when they say explore more options, they mean buy more drums and set more drums up, and buy more cymbals and set more cymbals up. And they were like, no, it's just the opposite. Because
Yeah.
what I would like for you to do someday is I'd like for you to come to a gig with just a kick, snare, a rack tom, a cymbal, and your hi-hat.
Yeah. No floor.
No floor, and see the sounds that you can get out of such a minimal kit.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised as to how musical you really, really can be when you are not necessarily when your back is against the wall, because it's not really that, because you do have a
Right.
level of freedom of expression still. But when you have a situation where that floor tom isn't there for that low thud at the end of a phrase or something like that,
Yeah.
what you would have to do to convince the others that you still meant exactly what you said when you said
Yeah.
it, to make that end of the phrase sound just as dynamic as it would as if you flammed on your floor tom, you
Yeah.
know. And
Um,
I love those types of challenges, because they really make you grow in ways that you wouldn't even think about how to grow in a situation like that.
I think without doing that, it's so easy to think in a box that we create by not doing that. And I think to make what you're saying work, you've got to be open-minded, and you've got to be boundless as far as boundaries, and not think, but it's supposed to be like this. And I was taught it's like this, and I've always done it that way. And these guys and girls always do. It has nothing to do with any of that. It's here's what you're given, and play the song you've played over and over, but with this. And
Right.
It's fun to do. Do you ever like just set stuff up different? Like put your right on the other side and a splash above the floor, Tom, instead of where you ever mix up your stuff and then play stuff because it makes you think differently? Or even if you play the same hits, you're physically moving to different places. That muscle memory goes away because now you gotta, the splash is over here now.
That's right.
That's right. It's fun.
That's right. I've done that. I've done that a couple times. I mean, and I usually do it not necessarily on a gig in particular.
Right,
I'll do something like that when I'm shedding.
Yeah.
When I don't. When I sometimes I feel like I've hit a little bit of a roadblock in terms of what I'm playing, how I'm playing what I'm playing, or even why I'm playing what it is I'm playing. Because sometimes you have to ask yourself, like we talked about the last time, in terms of bringing your fusion chops to a polka gig and things like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to you have to ask yourself, well, why would I play a lick like that if it's not the flavor that's necessary for this soup?
Yeah.
So sometimes in doing that, putting a splash cymbal over my floor tom as opposed to having it over my hi-hat, where I'm very happy with going with my left hand on it with, for various accents and stuff.
Yeah.
I love doing that. But every now and then, the other thing that I'll do is I'll stack a couple cymbals on top of one another and go to my there are times where I go to I'll call it my normal place, if you will, because there's sometimes when you do a fill, your natural tendency is to go to a specific cymbal, to go to a specific spot on the ride when you're playing your ride cymbal, et cetera, et cetera. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll stack cymbals on each other so that you're not hearing that crash.
Yeah, you got that choppy staccato sound.
Yeah. And what it does is it reprograms you, if you will.
Yeah.
It reprograms you into thinking about, well, I know that if I go here and I hit this cymbal again, I'm not going to get that splash crash that I want. So now I'm going to have to alter. So maybe I'm going to have to do 2 strokes with my right hand and crash with my left hand over here on this cymbal that's going to sing for me.
Right.
Then you flip it around. Then you take the cymbal, then you take your cymbal that's on your left, your crash that's on your, if that's how you set up the crash that's on your left, and you drop a couple cymbals on top of that. You stack that one so that your natural tendency when you go to that left is now that you're going to hear like the cymbal we talked about on my drum kit.
Yeah.
When I first got the drum kit, you're going to hear bam when you hit it.
Right.
So you have to figure out, okay, so I'm going to have to go around the drums and come over here to get my crash that I want.
Yeah.
As opposed to coming over here to get bam.
It's so funny. I didn't mention this last time, but the bam cymbal. When I was a teenager during the summers, I worked at my uncle's scrap metal yard. And once in a while, I'd find some old thing, some old cymbal. And 2 of them I still have in a box. And one was a cymbal from a low boy. And the other one, I'm not sure. And they were like gunmetal gray.
Yeah.
And so my tech and I, shout out to Mike Blanco, my tech and I named those 2 cymbals after how they sounded, goink and zoink.
Nice.
And they were to the left of my hi-hat on an extender tree, the smaller one above the other.
Yes.
And they were before trashy cymbals were even being made. This is in 1982, 81, 84, right in that. Because I remember what band I was in making videos at the time. And it was fun. It's like effect cymbals before there were effect cymbals. And you had that as a kid.
That's right. Like we were talking before. I wish I had saved that symbol.
Yeah,
I wish I had saved that because that would have more than likely that would have been in somebody's sample library,
totally.
or it would have been in my sample library, if not in somebody else's sample
Yeah.
library,
You
you
could have
know.
licensed it to the top rap artists in hip hop.
Yep, Jay-Z would have had it on one of his tunes or
Totally.
something, you know. That would have
A
been really
couple
cool.
couple shout outs to people watching. Kenneth Kent is in Tuscaloosa. I don't know why that was hard for me to read. Tuscaloosa, Alabama, home of the Crimson Tide.
Right on, right
Crimson
on.
Tide. We got Pat Hughes, Grenada, Mississippi, drummer for over 30 years,
Right on.
and longtime fan Brian Cahoon. Hello, Dan and Abe. Thanks for
Hey,
watching,
hey.
everybody. Yeah, those are on Facebook. We're also streaming live on YouTube. Don't be shy. Chime in. If you have a question for Abe, I'll go ahead
Yeah,
and relay
please,
it. Yeah.
please. By all means, I'm good with that. I enjoy that. I enjoy chopping it up and talking it up with folks. If anybody's
Yeah.
got any questions, or if anybody's got any relevant stories, as long as it's not one of those, yeah, Abe, I saw you naked running down the street. The other, as long as it's not one of those kind of
Right after
stories.
the Kool and the Gang gig.
Yeah.
When they hid your stuff in the dressing room. Well, here's a topic for you. With all your experience and all the music you've listened to and other bands that you see and drummers all over Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, knick-knack, paddywhack,
I'm
all
saying.
these different, what's one of the things that you feel a lot of drummers, I'll say, miss? Like, what's a common thread of something you see that go, man, if only these people could just pay more attention to this, they'd be so much better, or they're missing this. Do you see that there's a common denominator as far as a missing ingredient or two that you see more commonly?
Um, Missing ingredient, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's a missing ingredient.
Underdeveloped, maybe?
Uh, I think there are times when I look at it and you can kind of sort of tell that a cat has little experience as far as interacting with other musicians on the bandstand.
Mm.
Sometimes it's obvious when you hear, because the other thing is, and I'm not knocking it at all. I really enjoy watching other cats playing, and the little clips and stuff like that, and the little, every now and then they give you the exercises that has the sticking,
Yeah.
and I dig those. I dig those a lot. But there are times when I hear cats and they sound to me like they are the best cat that ever graced their basement.
Oh.
And I mean, now,
Yeah.
again, don't get me wrong, because I don't want anyone to think that I'm coming down, and I'm the last person to say anything bad about anybody's playing or anything like
I
that,
think
because
you're speaking more to the humility of
there's that. Yeah, there's that, because for me, everybody has something to contribute.
yeah.
Everybody has something to say. Everybody has something to bring to the table. Really what it is, more so than anything, is how you bring it to the table. A lot of times it's how you bring it to the table that make people think that you came up with it.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah.
I've always said that there's nothing new under the sun, but
Right.
how you do it sometimes is what makes people think that you came up with it.
Yeah, reinterpreting, reinventing, representing it differently. There's so many ways to do what you're saying, and you're true. Like about that, has everything been done? Maybe so in a way. There's only so many notes in a scale. There's
Right.
only so many different. But I like how you put that. That makes
There's
so much
there's
sense.
there's that. You're right. There's only so many notes in a scale, but at the same time, when you and I were teenagers, remember there were only 26 rudiments.
Yeah,
Now there's like 40.
yeah. And Congress is deciding on 23 more.
How about it?
Yeah, isn't that odd? Isn't that, and are they really more rudiments or repurposing and redesigning of existing ones?
I think it's more like door number 2.
Yeah.
I really do. I think it's the repurposing and the resticking, if you will, of certain things. Because I mean, I've seen cats do things that I'll go, oh man, that ain't nothing but a fast Radamacue,
Yeah.
you know, or it's just a paradiddle with an extra note, you
Yeah.
know.
So
And
that makes me think of like when we were young before there was video and all you had were the records, maybe the tapes. Once in a while, you might see something on um
Ed
Soul
Sullivan.
Train or Don Kirshner's Rocket. But other than that, we didn't see people play as kids. How many times as you got older and YouTube was born and stuff, where you saw one of your favorite drummers do something and you went, "Oh, that's what he's doing," and you were doing it a whole like that's happened to me a lot. Even still
Oh,
today,
heck
I'll
yeah.
go, "Whoa, that's what he's doing." I was always doing it like it
Heck
sounds the same, but the totally different sticking or movements and right?
yes, absolutely. I have a perfect example as far as that's concerned. Before I got a chance to see them in concert, I was a huge fan of Sib Hashian and
Oh,
Boston.
Boston. Yeah.
You know, huge, huge fan. So I got a chance to because what I used to do is I used to put the records on and I used to play the Don't Look Back.
Yeah.
Don't Look Back was my, you know, that was my go-to.
Yeah.
And the title song had, you know, there was a phrase that Sib did that I was doing. I guess you could say I was doing the opposite sticking,
Interesting.
you see, and it wasn't coming out. It wasn't sounding the way that he did it, and I couldn't figure out why it wasn't sounding the way he did it. When I went to go see them live, I managed to sneak around in my seat and sneak around to behind the bleacher seats behind the stage because I got to see him at Giant Stadium. I got to see him at Giant Stadium. I got to see him at Madison Square Garden. You
Wow.
know,
What year was this?
this
Like
is around
78, 79 or something?
79.
Yeah.
79. It's around the same time I saw Foreigner,
Okay.
you know, Foreigner, Boston, and all those groups. I was really, you know, checking them out. Todd Rundgren, Poco, and those cats,
Mhm.
Outlaws, all that kind of stuff live. So they were at Giant Stadium and they were headlining the show. So I got a chance to sneak behind and I saw what Sib did in that one spot because I was like radar. I was zoned. I was tuned
Locked
in.
in. Yeah.
I was locked and loaded. And I saw what he did, and it was an aha moment for me because the way that I was doing it is I was doing it with the sticking coming back to the hi-hat with the right hand.
Uh-huh.
He was coming back to the hi-hat with the left hand.
Was what he was
And
doing actually easier and less work?
it
Like more
was
economized movements?
it was not even so much that it was easier or even less work. It
Okay.
was right. It was correct is what it was.
Yeah.
Because when I was playing the phrase, I was playing the phrase wrong, but I was doing the best version of what I thought the phrase was
Yeah.
until I got a chance to see him live. And when I saw him live and I saw him do it, I could not wait to the next day to get on the drum set and practice that lick and then put on Don't Look Back
And play
and
to it.
play along to it and go, I got it.
What part is it? What part of the song, Abe?
In the verse, right? The lyric goes, "Don't look back, oh, a new day's break. Oh, it's been so long." And Sib says,
Yeah.
I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah.
Right? And what
Yeah.
I was doing when I played that, it was new been so long since I went dang. You see,
Ah,
so I was
yeah.
coming across with the right
Yeah.
hand, but I was a 16th note late. And so
Oh,
it ended up with my hi-hat being on the and
yeah.
of three and the and of four. But
So the phrase was slightly too long.
so the phrase was still the same length.
Okay.
It was still the same length. It's just that my hi-hat went in a 16th note late.
I see. Yeah.
So it ended up being not only that lick, but it ended up being something that I found is very common in funk as well.
Oh, really?
Like, you know how cats will go boo boo ga boo boo to ga to boo boo ga but the boo boo
Yeah.
ga. It's the same lick.
Oh, interesting.
It was the same lick, and I didn't realize it until later on in my playing that it was the same lick. And then I was able to not only incorporate that, but incorporate the 3 hits on the hi-hat where you boo boo ga da da bzz 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 da diz ga da kiss ga boo boo ga ga da bzz bzz bzz,
Yeah.
right? And then when I figured
How
that out and started
interesting.
getting that under my belt, I was like, oh, okay. So if that's the case, how would I manipulate being able to go back to the hi-hat with my right hand, but still play the same rhythm? So it was just a matter of adding a triplet to make it work, right? Because you could easily add a drag and then go to the hi-hat with your left hand,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
instead, you want to go with your right hand to the hi-hat. I would go,
There's 3 guys that come to mind with this. 1, the late great Floyd Sneed of
uh-huh.
Ohio Players and,
Yes.
Three Dog Night.
Yes.
The currently still great James Gadson, of
Yes.
course, the most recorded R&B drummer ever,
Yes.
and of course, Clive Stubblefield as
Stubblefield.
well. Yeah, it's all
Stubblefield.
over there playing what you're
Yep.
talking about. Yeah.
Yep. That's right.
How
That's right.
interesting. Yeah.
So yeah, that's what and come to find out, I'm finding this stuff out from a rock guy.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
because that's where he got it. He
Yeah,
got it from the stuff you're talking about.
that's right.
Earth, Wind& and Fire, it's all over their music.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's right. And it's,
Sly,
what to
Erico,
get. Yeah, yeah.
Greg Erico with Sly and the Family Stone, yeah.
That's right. That's right. To get back to what, we were talking about,
Yeah,
I I enjoy I enjoy checking out the cats and what they have to offer. You know, experience or not, experienced or not,
yeah,
green or not green, I like what cats bring to the table. But what I notice is, me personally, again, not saying this like I'm sitting on top of a hill
yeah.
and looking down on the world, like, I don't see anyone doing this these days, and it's a horrible thing. No, that's not me at all.
Right.
What I see a lot more than not is, I'll see cats that are playing by themselves, but they play like they are playing by themselves.
Oh, I get
There,
what you mean.
like, there are times when granted, when you're by yourself, you can get all those things out. You can work out the kinks and everything like that. That's all well and good, and I'm not knocking that. I encourage that. Work out the kinks, work them out as best
Yeah.
as possible. But there are times when, even when you're playing by yourself, you have to consider the possibility of the other things that could potentially be around you.
Yeah,
So
you gotta rehearse being reserved, you know?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, it's that's just as important as practicing your chops and getting that fast lick in around the drums, and
Mhm.
that's just as important, because uh we as drummers, one of the things that I also notice is that we as there's some drummers that are incredible soloists, but something leaves a little bit to be desired as far as their ensemble playing.
Yeah. They're
you
2
know
different things.
yeah,
Totally.
absolutely. You can play what you want, you can do what you want, you can be what you want, you can say what you want when you're by yourself. But when you're with others, it's like having a conversation. If you're having a conversation with 5 people and they're talking about the latest trend in football teams making the playoffs, and you're talking about eggs on the farm,
Yeah.
you're not going to gel with the conversation, and
Right.
people are going to be like, dude, what are you talking about?
Yeah, and
You
you
know,
can't talk over anybody when you're playing either. It's over playing, and you have to be a member of the unit.
a member of the conversation. You have to be a
Yeah.
part of the conversation that is taking place, and that it's important to know how not just to be a member, but to know how to be a member of the conversation. You have
Right.
to know whether, I mean, like, like what's the name said, like Kenny Rogers, like Kenny Rogers said, you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them,
Yeah.
you know. So there are times when a contribution to the conversation is at the right time,
Yeah.
where it sounds like you are the only one that has ever played that lick in the entire existence of humanity, right?
Yeah, putting
Right,
it in the
right,
right place. Yeah.
right. And then there are other times when it gets to the point where you're playing so much that cats tune you out,
Yeah. And they're just
and
trying
it's
to
not
hold it together because 'cause you're not doing that for them.
right. And
Yeah.
it's not an interactive conversation.
Yeah.
I remember seeing a gig. I won't name the artist, but I remember seeing a gig and being in the audience. And my friend who I was with, he asked me, he said, so, what'd you think of the show? I said, the show was good. The singer sounded good, but it was hard to really listen to the singer because the drummer didn't lay it down the way, the drummer treated it like it was his show and she was a special guest.
What kind of music was it? What
It
genre?
was, I would call it neo soul.
Okay.
It was neo soul. And I mean, it was one of those things where it was the chops were nice. They were just displaced, if you will.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
appreciated his chops. I respected his chops. But if you were on somebody else's gig, they would have been much more appropriate.
Yeah.
You know, it's oh, excuse me. It's like playing. It's like trying to have licks and fills and riffs and stuff like that, and Billie Holiday is singing a ballad.
Yeah. Did it sound like he or she just came from church or something? A church gig?
It sounded like that was where they got all of their skills.
Ah,
Listening to church drummers, playing along with church drummers, going to those sheds,
yeah.
those because those guys they have like chop sheds,
Yeah.
where they go back and forth, and it's like
Yeah.
I got more chops than you. No, I got more chops than you. No, I got more
Right.
chops than you. And there are times now, again, don't get me wrong, because if that's your boat, just make sure it floats.
Yeah. A good
Right.
workout's okay once in a while, but for that to be applied to just anything that you do, that doesn't make sense.
I had a professor tell me one time, he said, understand the patience of the music that you are playing,
Mm,
which in turn led to don't bring your fusion chops to a polka gig.
yeah.
You have to understand that. I mean, sure, you want to be able to orchestrate the band. You want to be able to play a lick like we were talking about before, play a lick and make it sound like you made the big band play that lick.
Right.
You want that, but there is a level where it gets to be excessive, and now you're not playing music, you're playing notes, or you're making noise,
Right.
and it's just about understanding what those chops can be correctly used for and in what situations.
Mm.
So there are times when where I see that a cat's got amazing chops, but I'm just curious as to how it would work in an ensemble situation.
Yeah, that's a good take. And can they do that? Sometimes I'm sure is the question. Like, I wonder if they could even hang with a simple Rolling Stone song or B-52s or whatever.
Right. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. Those are see now, and again, you have cats like Steve Gadd. Steve Gadd, he put it best. There's a quote where he says, chops show the skills, but pocket pays the
Yeah.
bills.
Yeah.
You dig?
Absolutely.
And I'm like, I'm an advocate of that. I think one of the main reasons why I'm such an advocate of that is because I'm not really like a choppy kind of guy. I don't go around chopping. I try to be as appropriate. I try to be as genre appropriate as I possibly can.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, once again, bringing my dad back into the equation, at the end of the day, my dad used to tell me, he said, as a drummer, if you don't have those toes tapping and those butts shaking in the seats, you're not doing your job.
That's right. No one dances to the trombone.
That's
No
right.
one dances to the bass.
That's right.
Bless their hearts. No one dances to the guitar. People move to the beat of the drums, period. And your
Yes.
dad's so right. Because if you're not doing that, it can't fall on any other player. That's not what they do. That's not
right.
what people move to.
And,
No
and,
disrespect to those other musicians, of course, but let's get real, right?
yeah. And an addendum to that, you, with everything that you said, also, no one dances to
Right. Exactly.
right. So there's got to be a 50-yard line in there somewhere.
Yeah.
And picking and choosing the right spots has a tendency to give the impression that you are a much more tasty drummer than you may actually be.
Yeah, totally. I just thought of Sly, bless Sly Stone,
Yeah.
and Dance to the Music when he says, I'm gonna add some guitar to
That's
make
right.
it easy to move your feet. What?
Right.
We don't move to that. Come on,
Right.
Sly.
That's right. But maybe Sly was moving his feet to the guitar.
Maybe, yeah.
You know, because he'd move his feet to anything, really.
Yeah.
He just had it like that, you know.
He was great. Great band. Just
Woo.
there'll never be another band like that.
You're right about that.
Yeah.
You're right about that. And the wildest thing about it is when I was with Kool and the Gang in the late 90s, we went to Chicago and played on the Jenny Jones show. I don't know if you remember that show.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
The Jenny Jones show. She pulled me to the side and she gave me a little fun fact. She said, did you know, I think she said 2 years, if not 3 years. She said, let's say she said 2 years. Did you know for 2 years, I was Sly and the Family Stone's drummer?
Really?
Jenny Jones. That's right.
Huh. What a trip. Was Greg Errico on a break or
it could have been either been the latter years.
Okay.
Or it could have been the pre-Errico years.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting.
You know, but yeah, she pulled me to the side and told me that. I was like, wow, I didn't know that.
So I got to throw this out there. And I know some people, including our producer, Steve, will probably roll their eyes. But Larry Graham is my wife's cousin.
Really?
Yeah. The guy who invented the slap bass.
How about that?
What a genius. Yeah.
Man, what?
That live at the Fillmore show, just love that. So good.
Oh my goodness. It's so funny. Just about every band that I've played in has wanted to play jam.
Yeah.
You know, just for the sake of, you know, boom, bing, boom, bing, 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 you know, just for the sake of just getting their slap in.
Yeah.
Whether it was at a sound check or they wanted to do it as the bass feature when they got their name introduced.
And were they all able to do it? All the cats you played with?
For the most part.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. So that's something else though. Larry Graham, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's great.
Yeah, before we run out of time, I want to show everybody a clip of your previous fun fact segment, because people that follow the show know that the last question I ask is a fun fact segment, and typically it's what do you like to do outside of music. So I'm going to show the one from our last interview, then I'm going to throw you a new fun fact segment question. Okay.
New fun fact. Let's go.
Check this out, folks. A minute and a half, and then the brand new one. Your last question for this time around is the Abe Fogle fun fact segment. When you're not doing music, in those slivers of time where you're not writing, producing, practicing, teaching, touring, gigging, recording, when you're away from music, and you may have answered this privately when we were just chatting before the show, but what's your thing? What do you like to do outside of music?
Enjoy
What's
nature.
keeping you off the news?
Enjoy nature. Enjoy. I just just I enjoy living my life.
Oh,
That's
that's
re-
great.
that's really that's really what it is, because I'm blessed to be able to do this. Not everybody can say that they do this and they make a living doing this, and
Right?
connections that I've made as a result of doing this and doing this with my life, and having such a good life to do it with. I mean, there are ups and downs and there are challenges. This is what Dad told me back when I was a kid, but I was willing to take all of that and turn the poison into medicine, turn the
Totally.
weapon into a tool. I was able to take all of that and absorb it, digest it, and use it for what it is I have. So I mean, I'm loving life.
That's great.
I'm healthy, thank God, knock wood. I'm loving life, and it feels like life is loving me back.
Oh, that's great.
So
That's awesome. Golden. So here's the new Abe Fogle fun fact segment.
hit it.
I know you listen to and I know you play a lot of different music. You've played with a lot of different artists that are indeed different from each other.
Yes.
But is there a style of music that you're into and fond of that might surprise people, whether it's a guilty pleasure or just, sometimes as musicians, it's easy to get stereotyped, even if you do play with different artists of different genres. But is there something that might surprise people that you're into?
You know, I like classical music.
Do you? Symphonies and stuff like that? Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do. As a kid coming up and playing, I remember mentioning to you, my dad interviewed my first drum teacher.
Yeah.
Um, he asked me what it was I wanted to do, and I said, one of the things that I said is I want to be principal chair percussionist at the Lincoln Center Philharmonic. You know, it never really got that far, but it was still, as lofty a goal as it was.
How
It
old
was still something.
when that was your goal, Abe? Sorry, how old were you when that was your goal?
Uh, when I first started playing, around 15,
Okay.
I was about 15.
That's a wonderful goal for that age.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, because the other thing about it was I was still playing trombone as well, so I
Uh-huh.
was making that transition away from trombone and into percussion, and into playing drums. And then I had a percussion teacher who was getting me into timpani and getting me into. I was going back and forth between playing trombone in the orchestra, and then I'd play bass drum in the orchestra, or I'd play cymbals or something like that. And I never really pursued it wholeheartedly and like gung ho like that, because what ended up happening is the love of jazz and the love of funk, the love of rock and the love of R&B and soul and
Sitting at the kit, right?
yeah, and of course, now we got rap coming in the game
Yeah.
around that same time too. So the
Right.
love of all of that kind of superseded my desire to want to be the principal percussionist for the Lincoln Center Philharmonic. You know, it was still a dream, and it was still something that gave me something to shoot for, technically.
Yeah, yeah, I was gonna say that often it's our dreams and our goals that set us on a path that get us to where we end up, even if it's not that goal.
That's
And
right.
it sounds like that's what happened.
That's absolutely right. That is actually what happened. And then there was that band that I was telling you about, that band Modern Art,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
that allowed me to explore all the other possibilities, all the other avant-garde nuances that came with
right.
playing music, and expressing yourself is really what it was. It wasn't just about playing music. It wasn't just about playing the 12 notes. It was
Yeah,
about expressing yourself and being able to have. One of the challenges was you have one drum and you have two sticks. How many sounds can you get out of this one drum?
right.
So if you have a snare drum or whatever drum it is, you have a snare drum, you have one rack tom or something like that. You're going with your stick presses, you're going with your cross sticks, you're going with your, underneath the stick with the rattle.
Yeah.
You're going shake and bake, against the stick and on the drum head. All these different things you can come up with, playing on the rims, playing on the wood.
Flip the snare over on the
Yes, that's right.
snares. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. All of that. All of those things that come with the exploration of your instrument.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure that a sax player back in the day was sitting down listening to somebody talk about a section in the music, and they were just patting their keys.
Yeah. Yeah.
And ended up coming up with that that kind of sound without blowing into the horn.
Right.
So it's sometimes it's about experimentation. It's about going out, coloring outside the lines.
Totally. Yeah.
And seeing what shapes come about as a result of coloring outside the line. If you stay inside the line all the time, sure, the car's going to be able to go around the racetrack the way that it should. But what if you dip a little bit outside? And who knows, that might be the new aerodynamic thing that all the cars were looking for, to get 5 miles an hour faster.
Right.
Down that to the finish line. Who knows?
How much do you think having that percussion background with concert band and orchestra, how much did that enable you to be more exploratory when you were playing on the drum set and doing the avant-garde stuff and thinking outside the lines? Did that factor into it a lot?
Leaps and bounds. It is an integral part of that. It was very, very, very integral in that it allowed for me to first see what the percussion can do as the percussion instrument per se. Here's an example. When you play, Latin music, they got a guido.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I was in school one day, and we had one of those peep your hole card things at the new school, where we had a guest artist come in, and the guest artist happened to be Ray Mantilla, the amazing percussionist.
Oh, wow.
Ray Mantilla, right? And he brought in a couple of his boys, and he's playing a nice little groove and everything like that, and the class is kind of participating, and they're he's teaching them about the clave and where the clave goes, this and that and the other, right? So it was a nice little groove, and there was no guido. There happened to be a huge industrial fan in the room, one of those metal fans in the room. So I took my brush, and without extending the brush out for the spokes, I left it in its closed position, turned it around, went to the fan, and I went, and he looked over at me and he pointed and he was like,
that is so cool.
Like, you're thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
You're coming up with something that maybe somebody else would not have thought to do. And that is a lot of what that band did for me.
That's neat.
Thinking outside the box and taking your instrument at more than just face value.
Right.
This is a drum set. Yeah, sure, this is a cymbal, but what happens if I take my stick and rake it up against the edge of the cymbal? What kind of sound will I get from that? What happens if I take my cymbal and take the bead of the stick and go around the cymbal like this? What kind of sound will I get?
Especially a China with rivets.
Yes, exactly.
Or a bam.
No question.
Cool. We're going to go only because we want to keep it under an hour so we can get it on Instagram. We're at 59 and a half minutes. Folks, thanks for joining Abe Fogle and myself, the return of Abe Fogle.
Thank you, guys.
Back. You'll be back. We'll be back. And thanks. Go think outside the box and color outside the lines, folks.
That's right. And don't forget to get Rob Thomas's new album, All Night Days.
Yeah,
Rob
and if you want,
Thomas's new album, All Night Days. I'm playing on it. So make
there
sure
you
you
go.
get it.
Get it now. Go get it. Don't
Now.
just listen to
Go.
it on YouTube. Go get it. Thanks, everybody.